Have you ever seen a UFO? Bigfoot or some ghosts? On Tactiles, there's Susie. She is the host. We really like to hear from you. You can tell us then all about the aliens. And if you're one of them, we really need to know. We really need to know. Really need to know, or we will come and get you in the night.
Hi, welcome to Out of This World with Susan and Willy. I'm Susan Spool, your host, and today on our show we have Billy Penning and Ronnie LeBlanc from Leominster, Massachusetts. Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome. Thank you for having us today, Susan.
Pleasure to have you here. Today's topic, we'll talk about Monsterland in Leominster, Massachusetts, as well as Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and that particular topic. Gentlemen,
Okay.
so tell us some stories.
I would love to tell you some stories, Susan. First of all, my name's Bill Penning, and I'm here because of an event that my wife and I had back in 2010 up in Leominster State Forest, where we found some footprints that didn't seem quite right. And from there, we took some castings of it, and we're on the Finding Bigfoot show with Ronnie LeBlanc.
Yeah, so you and your wife had found this print, and definitely felt like you were being watched and being followed. So once they came back to this area, they found this print, and we went back and casted it. And that led us on the show. And once we started discovering a little bit more about the stories in Monsterland and other people's experience, started realizing that there could be something going on up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Billy and I grew up together. We went to high school together. Our fathers were firefighters on the Leominster Fire Department together as well. So we go way back, and we're acquainted after all these years due to this subject. These gentlemen will be speakers at the Greater New England UFO Conference, which will be Friday and Saturday, October 16th and 17th at Leominster City Hall, 25 West Street in Leominster, Massachusetts. On the Friday night, October 16th, Ronnie and Billy here will be our keynote speakers, and we'll be talking about their experiences and stories with the Bigfoot phenomenon. So
We would love to have you come out and sit and visit with us and hear the stories that Ronnie and I are going to share with everybody. When I was a small child, 5 or 6 years old, my parents used to load us up in the back of our station wagon and take us down to Jungle Road in Leominster, which is now a big Walmart. But that was where it all began, Monsterland, and the stories of a hairy bipedal creature living down in that area. So whoever knew that, you know, back when I was 5 years old, that story would one day, 35, 40 years later, show up to be almost true when I found those footprints in Leominster State Forest. So we have a lot of stories from a lot of people, and we'd love to share them with you. We'd love you to come down.
Love to hear your stories as well, if you have anything.
now with the Bigfoot phenomena, there are also orange balls or orange orbs that show up, and that they seem to also be connected with UFOs.
That's true.
So, have you had any experience with that, with your experiences and stories?
Yeah, we had a experience
We
in
sure have.
Leominster State Forest when did a night expedition and working down the trail. Definitely felt like we were being watched and followed. We didn't really hear anything, but it was a very eerie experience. And we got back to the parking lot to kind of regroup. And Bill had mentioned about pointing to a certain area that we needed to kind of focus on and go.
Basically the place where we found the footprints. And this is before we hooked up with any of the people in the Bigfoot world or the Bigfoot community or hearing stories from anybody else through Facebook and all these web pages and whatnot. So Ronnie and I were just basically out in the woods at night after we had found the prints and just trying to get a vibe of what was out there, and maybe we could have another encounter. And that is when we seen the actual orange orb come across the sky, stop, and then shoot straight down to the area where I had found the footprints a couple months previous to that. So it was, from there on in, something started going crazy, and then we started reading and researching more and more and finding that this is the only time that this has happened. So there's a lot lot of interesting stuff out there.
Now, a lot of hunters in the area have seemed to have had experiences up in Leominster State Forest and up by the high tension wires. Is that kind of the area?
This is exactly the same area. And the high tension wires that go through No Town Reservoir also go through Monsterland, which is on the backside of 117, and continue on there. So we've equated that too. There's been sightings all up and down all of those between Samoset Pond and Fallbrook School and a lot of the local areas in there. People have reported. And again, one thing that we did find out here was once we came out in the newspaper saying that we were going to be on the Finding Bigfoot show, is that's when people started really coming out of the woodwork and telling us their stories. Because really, what do you do when you find something like that, or when you're talking to somebody, or you know, who do you tell that? Oh, I found Bigfoot footprints, or I heard a weird noise in the woods, or I seen something running down the road. You know, the local police department, you know, they got enough stuff to worry about. You know, as often as it does get reported, does it really?
And especially around that Monsterland area, Leominster State Forest. So there's something going on, and there's something connected with the orbs and Bigfoot, and people also see UFOs as well in that same area.
Right. It's interesting with this phenomenon. I'm sharing with people that we're having this conference. People telling me the stories as well in Leominster, up on Day Street, up on Low Street, up of Pleasant Street. That there have been sightings. There've been, you know, that there was a landing of a craft, and that the dirt and was all burnt because the craft landed there in a tripod shape. And also in recent times, you know, because we can't really find Bigfoot, that the thought is, or the theory is that Bigfoot is interdimensional, and that's why there's no real evidence of them that's been caught.
More and more researchers that have been in the field and doing this for a long time are slowly coming to that conclusion that there's something, it's not an animal, there's something different going on, because they're actually seeing these things. I talked to a doctor, Matthew Johnson, who's a psychiatrist in Oregon, and he actually witnessed a portal opening up with a Bigfoot walking out and a portal shutting. So here's a guy that was chasing an animal for 6 years and then started seeing this other stuff and really just blew his worldview on what this thing is. And more researchers coming to that conclusion that they could be interdimensional and that they're coming in through portals, which is hard to grasp when you're just even trying to think of the concept of Bigfoot itself, and then you're talking about portals. So it's
Susan, basically every conversation that I've had with someone who's had a Class A type sighting, which is actually seeing the being, they no one ever describes it as an animal. One person described it as a gorilla on all fours until it stood straight up and then walked and was gone. But what I'm getting at is every single story that I've spoken to is someone says, I seen it, it was there, it took a few steps and then it was gone. And they all end the same way. It was there and then it was gone, like disappeared. You know, did it hide behind some trees? Did it duck away? Who knows? But my opinion is if they want you to see them, they will show themselves. And if they don't, then you won't see them, but you may hear them. Or feel them, even worse. We've felt them. We can go out in the woods and feel them right away. They know that we're in the woods and that, you know, we're here not to harm them. So
tell us what that feels like. Is it, you know, the hair stand up in the back of your neck?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's like your gut feeling of something.
Gut feeling right away. And another thing we've noticed is if you're ever out in Leominster State Forest or Palmer Road, where kids used to go out and have bonfires and stuff. When you go out there, listen for animals in the woods. And feel the environment around you. Some days you'll go out there and birds are chirping, squirrels are climbing trees, and everything's great. And then other times, when you get out there, there's a real eerie feeling
just dead quiet.
Of dead quiet, and something is not right, like something beyond normal. I mean, we've been up to Rocky Pond and not even heard a frog or a cricket or anything. It's just been so quiet, like everything's afraid it's going to get eaten. But I'm not really sure what that is, but I've felt it numerous times in that area, and other times nothing. Fantastic. Have a great day.
I have I've been up into the Pacific Northwest of the United States, Washington State, Harrison Hot Springs, which is in British Columbia, Canada, and they have a lot of Bigfoot sightings there. I have a Bigfoot jacket that I bought when I was up there. But they had, they also had a campground named after Bigfoot. But there are also a lot of stories and a lot of sightings in that part of the country, as well as I have friends that live in New Jersey, not in the city per se, but that communicate with Bigfoot, and that Bigfoot will leave them, or Sasquatch will leave them gifts.
Absolutely.
So tell us about the gifts that you've encountered.
Well, they use gifting bowls where you're kind of leaving out food as kind of an offering to them, just showing that you're being peaceful. And different people have talked about going out and hitting trees with sticks and doing the hoots and everything else, and not getting any kind of interaction. But then leaving out food, and then finding fingerprints left on those, or gifts given back, like marbles, crystals, and these weird other things that are vines that are kind of wrapped up and knotted together.
Yes.
So it's pretty interesting.
I have a friend, Eileen, that lives down in New Jersey, and she was telling me that she'll leave gifts for them on her deck, and that they will then in turn give back what look like little dolls made of grass or made of vines, like, as you were indicating there. So it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, it's been going on for a while, but now it seems like we're kind of heading into a different direction, and a lot more things are kind of being revealed, so to speak. So it's an interesting time.
As this progresses on, my encounter and when I met Ronnie was in 2010. So previous to that, I was like everybody else and just watched the Leonard Nimoy specials when we were kids, In Search of and whatnot,
In Search of,
and just really enjoyed the fascination of it all. But never in a million years did I think that I would be walking through the woods on a random Tuesday on a very hot morning with my wife, just the two of us, looking to get to a place to go do a little fishing and then find what we found. It's an unbelievable experience that I knew right away we were picked for. They chose us to find those footprints on that day for a reason, and we never did actually see what left the footprints, but we could feel it, and it was just an unbelievable feeling of almost hypnotic type feeling, like it was trying to confuse us, so we didn't really know where we were at the time when we found the footprints, and maybe in hopes that we never go back there and do what we're doing now, somewhat exposing them. So. I feel bad that, one, that we did go ahead and disclose our location on TV, and a lot of people have been up there stomping around, but... and
we get a lot of pushback on that, on revealing the location, because I wanted to see other people start talking about their experiences and, working together and collaborating. And we were told by several investigators to not reveal the location. They really felt that there was a family of Sasquatch living in that area and have been for a long time, and that we would drive them out as they've seen this happen before.
And they were afraid that we'd push them out of that area. And honestly, we've seen all kinds of traffic up there. But they're way too smart, they're way too intelligent, they know when people have guns, they're not about to just expose themselves for any reason at all. They're there, they know what you're thinking, they know what you're thinking before you're thinking it. And that's the way I felt. And every time we step out into the woods now, it's never with a camera, it's in good faith that we're there just to take a walk and enjoy. And maybe if we have an encounter, maybe we will have an encounter. But it's experience, it's changed my life for the best, this whole experience. Something that it just totally affected my whole attitude on everything is there's something much bigger than we are out there, and I feel very, very blessed to have seen this. I feel as though, as one veteran doctor researcher told me, he's like, Bill, you hit the lottery. You found 6 footprints that were left on purpose, and people find one, but to find a clear trackway is just beyond belief. And I wish I knew then what I know now, and we would have had all 6 of the footprints cast and the deer tracks, and did a much, much more thorough investigation of the whole area. But the first times we went up there, we were so scared. We didn't the Bigfoot's gonna get us. We were afraid to death to be up there, honestly, literally shaking in our boots, because whatever led to these footprints, whether it be man or beast, it was huge. It was huge.
How
and
big
it was
were
heavy.
they?
They were 14 inches long, and they were about 5.5, 6 inches wide.
Wow.
And at the time, the Boston Celtics had just picked up Shaquille O'Neal. So we were thinking, oh man, Shaquille O'Neal's out here running around barefoot. That's the type of size.
Wow.
The strides were so far apart.
Yeah.
They were well over 5 feet apart, and they were so deep and so straight. Normal humans have footprints that run side by side
Right.
because of our hips. These were lined up very, very straight. It was very odd. It stuck out like $1,000,000.
Yeah.
We couldn't figure out what it was or
The depth,
what was going on. It was wrong. Whatever, we were looking at something that was not normal.
the
Right.
depth of the tracks, 3.5 inches, and you had mentioned when
Wow.
you
Yeah,
first
they
found
were
them, we tried
really
to step
deep.
That's
down
huge.
and
And-
couldn't even break an inch.
Just
of,
the force of the toes where it jumped out of the woods and landed, it was like, wow, what would do that and why? Hungry, chasing food.
Right, exactly, yeah, exactly.
It was scary, and it's like, okay, if this thing's gonna chase a deer that can leave footprints this deep in the mud, what's it gonna do to us? So,
Right.
True.
so I tripped my wife and ran. no, we were scared to death. All we had was a fishing rod, so we gathered our stuff quickly and head off.
Now, there was a fire up there at the
There
end
was,
of
yeah.
up the end of Pleasant Street. Was that was that May or June?
May or
early
June,
summer.
yeah, earlier this
And
year.
so I'm wondering if that was what caused the fire,
Yeah.
and then if that made a disturbance for any sightings potential that are coming up, or
It's possible.
Yeah, it could have, definitely.
But I honestly, I feel as though that there is some type of unknown energy in that whole area through the power lines, and there might be multiple portals where they come and go, and that's why people see them all over the place down there. They may come, they stay for a little while, and then leave again.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. That's why you can't go out there and find all these beds and nesting and places where they
that's where they live.
where they live, right? Because they're not here for all that long.
Right.
I,
On the third,
I know.
in the third dimension.
In the
right.
third dimension,
Yeah.
right? It's
Well, if-
I mean, Eileen, when we talked to her, kind of,
Yeah.
said
That's right.
the energy
Kinda
it takes for
corroborated
them,
that.
right? Corroborated the energy it takes for them to go between the portal and into our Earth or our realm,
Our dimension, right.
our dimension, right? So, who knows?
Now, also in the woods, I've read and I've seen photographs of they stack up. There'll be a tree, and then they'll
Rocks.
stack up other sticks and logs against other trees. Is that
They also stack rocks.
they stack rocks?
The most unbelievable rock stacks I've ever seen in my entire life. There are no human beings that would take the time and patience it requires to do this. Not only will they do one pile, they'll do 2 piles together, 12 or 13 rocks with the exact same size rocks all the way down, like a mirror image just sitting there. I don't know if you've ever tried to balance rocks before,
That's
but
not-
little
that's not
pebbles.
easy. That's not easy.
It is
Not-
very
it's
frustrating.
not easy. That's not easy.
It's like almost like it's a gift, or it's a spot, or a juvenile. Someone was just sitting there bored, waiting. I don't know. Whatever it is, they're awesome, and they're found in random spots
And then where would
all
they
over the place.
And where would they find stones if they were the exact same size?
Exactly.
I mean, how do you? Yeah, that's
take the
what
time
are
to
the,
grab
right.
I mean, maybe at the beach where you see 1,000,000 stones, but this is out in the woods at
Woods,
lemon,
yeah.
Right.
and
And the branches, the trees, a lot of researchers that have theorized that they're kind of marking points of walk this way, this is my area, this is, whether they're communicating with other.
So they're like on Washington. They're like cairns, CAIRNS. That like walk this way sort of thing.
right,
Right.
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
That's what we think.
Wow. No, so this whole conference that we're putting together here, it just, this is the 12th interview that we've put together in just a short time, basically not even 3 weeks, and everything is falling into place. And when things are meant to be, they come together easily, and that's how this whole experience has been for us and with Ronnie and
It's meant to be. Absolutely, it's meant to be.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
so, yeah.
I've been interested in it most of my whole life, and
whole
now,
life.
I mean, a one-time experience has turned into now we're on doing a show about Bigfoot and our experience and what we found.
Right.
And I'm just glad that I have the opportunity to be able to actually open up about it and let people know that you don't need to be afraid of ridicule and craziness.
that's right.
And if you've seen something, you've seen something. Whether
that's right.
you know what you saw. And no one should be able to tell you that what you didn't see, because we do not know all. No one knows all.
No.
And doctors,
And,
lawyers, police
right,
officers,
right.
people
They've
are
all
seeing
had
these things.
experiences.
Right.
One of our first call was from a major doctor who works for is associated with the BFRO, and he contacted us and did
BFRO stand for?
the Bigfoot Research Organization, which puts on the show Finding Bigfoot. But if you would like to go out and research some of the local area sightings or reports that have been reported to them, the BFRO.net webpage is fantastic. All kinds of cool stories in there. We're in there because and this group of people doesn't just put anybody on the internet, because they have a reputation also. So we spent a good hour and a half, almost 2 hours on the phone with this doctor, telling him our story. So it was cool. It was great, and we were very lucky to meet him. He actually came to Leominster and spent some time with us behind Shoalin Farms because of some reports we've had there, which is also part of the power lines and the whole stuff.
Right,
So it's a very
was.
sacred piece of property. Yes. Leominster is very special place.
It is.
We would love for you to come out and visit with us and hear even more stories.
Absolutely.
We've got a whole book full that Ronnie's putting together, Monsterland, and we would love to share that with you.
Absolutely. Now, Leominster has a long history of UFO sightings and other phenomena. On Friday this past week, I was up in Maine with Ray Fowler. Ray Fowler wrote the book, The Andreasen Affair. The book, The Andreasen Affair, was about Betty Andreasen Luca, who lived on Howard Street in Leominster, down behind the Knights of Columbus. And she had abduction experiences as a child. Then she moved up to, was it Westminster and Ashburnham? And she had further experiences. And her and her husband were living in Connecticut. Now they've moved further south. But there's all sorts of amazing things that have happened in the city of Leominster with sightings. Many people have had sightings in St. Leo Cemetery.
Yeah. That's a famous one. Yeah.
I got a real good one on Grove Street.
Yes.
By 6 or 7 of my friends. That when we were kids, 15 years old, running down Grove Street, heading towards City Hall.
Oh, Grove Ave,
Grove Ave, right. And right at those apartments there. They were a huge bright light stopped over them and shadowed them, and they actually pulled over other cars driving up the street, and one of them was a police officer who got on his radio and looked up and said, I don't even know what to call this, so I don't even know. And just left it there, and then they all scattered, and they seemed to have got out of the bright light that was following them. And I straight up asked him, do you feel as though you lost any time? And he was like, no, but it did really seem weird that all of a sudden we showed up at a different spot than from where we left. So I'm not sure what their experiences are, but the more I talk to people and the more they understand that Ronnie and I are just searching for information. There's a lot of people in this area that have had some type of experience, not only with Bigfoot, with UFOs and abductions and everything else from this area.
Right, that's right. No, it's all legitimate. So it's
very cool.
It is.
We are the hub of the universe in Leominster.
We are.
Come visit us.
Now, what year was that? That
was approximately 1980.
1980.
1979, 1980.
And you mentioned the one in the St. Leo Cemetery, which was 1965. I live right down the street from it, and a couple was driving 2 in the morning, summertime, taking a drive, and they drove by the cemetery, and there was a fog hanging over the cemetery. So the husband turned back around, and they pulled in, and lo and behold, there's a flying saucer hovering over the cemetery. He pulled up, got out of his car, pointed to us, and said, "Can you believe that?" And as soon as he did that, his hand got flung onto the car like a magnet. The thing took off, and it took a few seconds to kind of regain composure. They got in the car, drove back. He was so frazzled that they actually crashed into the garage door.
Wow.
And at 3 in the morning, they're in their 40s, they called their parents. So if you're making something up, not something you're going to call your parents at 3, 4 in the morning to explain.
Not at all.
Police officer Ciccone came down and interviewed them, knew them, and said they were telling the truth.
Yeah.
So the history of Leominster, all this stuff is there's something going on there. So.
Yeah, it's a hotbed of activity. It really is for many years, and even in the early '60s, there were sightings near downtown Leominster. When my mother was pregnant with me, she saw one right over our home, and on West Street, right near the library. And she described it as looked like a cigar, and it had windows, and it was right over. And a lot of people saw that, had that sighting as well. So it's all very matter of fact that was there.
Yeah,
and it's happened.
1909 too. The Worcester airship sightings Before there was really any pilots, there's only about 36 licensed pilots
Yeah.
in the world at that time. And over Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, there's this airship sighting flying over Worcester with a searchlight. And so there's an interesting story, and I kind of cover that in the book that I'm working on now. So
Awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciate you gentlemen coming and sharing these experiences. And again, the Greater New England UFO Conference is Friday and Saturday, October 16th and 17th. Friday night, it's $10 to get in, and Saturday night, it's on Saturday during the day. Registration starts at 8, and it's $25. And we'll be having a whole list of great speakers. The executive director of MUFON will be coming. Jan Harzan will be having Ray Hernandez from Miami, Florida. And Richard Dolan will be our keynote speaker. We're very excited to have him.
Yeah,
So,
awesome.
Again, gentlemen, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Billy, Ronnie, to
Our
be on
pleasure.
the show.
Thank you for
we'll
having us.
Thank you, and we'll see you next time on Out of This World with Susan and Willie.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Peace. See you there.
Have you ever seen a UFO? Bigfoot or some ghosts? Contact Elder Susie. She is the host. We really like to hear from you. You can tell us this.